Hello and welcome. You're watching India Global. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. The next 30 minutes, we get you all the stories that matter and most importantly, a deep dive into what's happening around India's neighbourhood with the present volatility in Nepal. Let's first get you the headlines and that big story, we decode that for you. Youth toppled Nepal Prime Minister Oli's government. Nepal Army Chief appeals for talks even as curfew remains on the streets of Nepal. What happens next? India Global tells you. There's a sign of big thaw in the India-US relationship. Progress on trade deal as Donald Trump comes out with a big hint on the possibility of trade negotiations. So this comes after his olive branch last week when he said that the India-US relationship is a very important, strategic, comprehensive relationship. Israel strikes Hamas leaders in Qatar. Hamas negotiators targeted in the Doha strike. Qatar calls the attack as cowardly and reckless. Russian drones shot down over Poland as Polish jets intercept the Russian drones over its territory. What lies ahead in the Russia-Ukraine conflict remains to be seen as political options to end the conflict are running out. And finally, India take on UAE as the Asia Cup 2025 kickstarts. All eyes on Team India's first match. Big story on the show this week is Nepal, which is on the edge, viewers, and has been so as security has now been tightened across the India-Nepal border as well. It's been 48 hours since a dramatic turn of events have unfolded in Nepal. 19 people have been dead so far. It started out as a protest by youngsters, by youth. Gen Z is the name of the group. They said that they have a problem with the corruption in the country and they came out on the streets because they felt that their social media applications were blocked and that was the right to free speech being crushed. Then it quickly engulfed into something much more. And what has happened is KP Sharma Oli's government has collapsed. There's anarchy on the streets in Nepal as government buildings have been torched, flights have been suspended. More importantly, former prime ministers are being and their families are under attack. Ministers are being chased and thrashed. Yes, that is what is happening on the streets in Nepal. The army has taken over and is now in charge of major security ops, including Kathmandu's airport, parliament complex. Prime Minister has resigned, but tensions remain. In the latest that's coming in, there's been now an indefinite curfew that has been put in place. Even as soldiers now have to ensure that things do not go out of control. They already have. Wife of former Prime Minister was killed after protesters set their house on fire. Violent mobs are now attacking Finance Minister to the streets. Those are visuals that are shocking and also tell you exactly how volatile the situation is. My colleagues are on ground in Nepal covering every aspect of this. I'm going to first play out some of those ground reports and then come back and talk more about why this matters to India at so many levels. It impacts India and what about India's neighbourhood. But first up, let's quickly also tell you that as far as all border states that share their border with Nepal are now under intense scrutiny, higher surveillance and more social media monitoring, even as things continue to remain fluid. Take a look at this ground report that's been filed by my colleague Aditya Rajkol from the ground.
NDTV has reached the residence of the Deputy Prime Minister of Nepal, Prakash Man Singh. He was a senior leader of the Nepali Congress as well. And you can see the kind of devastation that is happening at his residence at a very popular Tamil area of Kathmandu in Nepal. These are charred vehicles, multiple vehicles. I can spot, in fact, at least 4 to 5 vehicles that are completely charred and burnt here, parked in the compound of his residence here in Thamel of Kathmandu. We're being told that Day before yesterday, early morning at 3 a.m., he has already fled his Kathmandu home because he knew the circumstances are getting out of hand. You can see this is the, palatial building where, the family did reside and stayed. In fact, you can see there is, some area that is still burning out here. The entire house has been completely gutted and destroyed. If we walk a little further, apart from these vehicles, this is the entry to the residence of the Deputy Prime Minister Prakash Man Singh, which is completely, burnt, as you can see, completely destroyed. At one point in time, just about 36 hours ago, this would have been a palatial bungalow in the heart of Kathmandu in Thamel, but now it's completely destroyed. This is the fate of the KP Sharma Oli government and the Communist government and the Nepali Congress leaders who have faced devastation all across in this entire area. Ji? So I'm being told that still things are burning to not touch anything because it could be dangerous. So you can see multiple vehicles completely charged, the compound completely burnt, and this is one such example of the devastation that has happened, not just in government buildings, the symbols of the power of KP Sharma Oli, but also several leaders, several ministers of different political parties here in Nepal. Nepal is seeing now a democratic transition. It has already seen over the last 3 days youth uprising. We've seen the Nepal Parliament building completely burned and charred, the Supreme Court, the Prime Minister's residence, and several other locations. The Deputy Prime Minister's residence here, where I'm standing, is completely devastated. Currently, the Deputy Prime Minister and his family members are at an unknown location, at a safe location. But even as the army takes control of the security situation and the youth uprising's victory happens against corruption, what will be the future of Nepal? Who will take control? Will there be a democratic transition, or will there be a new council of ministers appointed to take care of the restoration of democracy? Reporting from Kathmandu in Nepal with video journalist Prem Singh, this is Aditya Raj Kaul for NDTV.
India has come out with its fair set of advisories from travel to also ensuring that it keeps a very close watch on the India-Nepal border. But now let's quickly tell you, viewers, why what is happening in Nepal is unfortunately looking like part of a broader pattern. On your screens are some of those pointers of how things have unraveled in the Indian neighborhood, the subcontinent, in the last 4 years. First, in Myanmar. In 2021, you had the military junta taking control over after chaos had happened on the streets. India also has a very long and a very important aspect in terms of the India-Myanmar relationship, and what happens in Myanmar impacts the entire northeast for India. So that instability has continued. There's an expectation of an election this year that New Delhi has been pushing Myanmar to continue on. Next up, 2022, you had the Colombo issue. In fact, the world saw the instability that engulfed Sri Lanka. The president at that time, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, was ousted. He fled. And unfortunately, there were similar dramatic scenes of mob finding its way inside the presidential palace, taking parts of his furniture, parts of his tea sets as well, as he flew out on a military helicopter, saving his life. It happened after COVID because there was complete bankruptcy, and the people of Sri Lanka felt that the Rajapaksas had cheated them, and that is the reason that they fell into bankruptcy. Sri Lanka has just recovered. There's been an election last year, but it continues to have that financial strain. Next up, Pakistan, 2023. Imran Khan was ousted. Army took over via proxy. There was those elections. Elections in Pakistan are never fair. They are never democratic. It's always the army deciding which puppet it wants to support. But they supported Imran Khan the last time around. But in 2023, he actually did have support. The groundswell was in favor of Imran Khan, which upset the ISI and the army, which is why they propped up the Sharifs. And you have Shahbaz Sharif as the prime minister. That added to the instability because people who still are supporters of Imran Khan have been asking for him to be released. and that instability remains. Next up, 2024, what happened in Bangladesh really had a massive impact in terms of the India-Bangladesh relationship, Bangladesh-Pakistan relationship, India's northeast being exposed to massive instability, and the fact that radical Islamists have been mainstreamed in Bangladesh. Hindu minorities have been under tremendous attack. One of the most prominent voices of the Hindu minority community, Chinmay Krishnadas, has been behind bars since last year in November, facing sedition charges. And lastly, of course, what has unraveled in Nepal is you have the Gen Z uprising suddenly in 24 hours coming on the streets and taking over Nepal. So as you can see, India now lives under a very volatile neighborhood, and all these incidents, one needs to connect them to identify that there is a pattern, possibly a pattern to this, and New Delhi needs to have a response to that in coming days. All right, let's now come back and tell you in terms of what's happening in Nepal, why it matters, and the many levels at which this is so important as far as Nepal is concerned. In Hindi, if you say there is a roti beti rishta that Nepal has with India, which is we break bread with people of Nepal, we have marital ties with people of Nepal. A lot of Indians have their relations, marital relations with those in Nepal, likewise, particularly in UP, Bihar, parts of Uttarakhand and others. And that is the civilizational, cultural, historical connect that people of India and Nepal have. And that is just part of why this is so important. In addition, there are these borders that India and Nepal have, which are very friendly borders. They're not hostile borders, which require those massive amount of garrisoning that you do in terms of what happens with Pakistan or even Bangladesh for that matter. So that tells you that how this impacts India. India's security risks have heightened, particularly in our border states. Instability will have an impact in terms of the cross-border trade. There are also shared rivers. As far as the entire regional development, that could have an impact. And the vacuum also does invite deeper Chinese influence. China has actually had a very significant influence in Nepal in the last 10 years. KP Sharma Oli was known to have a huge China bent. He spoke about Lipu Lake several times. He picked that up as an issue against India again and again. He may have gone, that thought hasn't gone, and China will use this opportunity to build on that vacuum. Let's get in our guests joining me on this edition, Rishi Gupta as well as Major General Binod Basnair. Thank you so much, both of you, for speaking to me. And let me start with you, General Binod, in terms of how things are looking right now. India has been very carefully evaluating this because this impacts us at many levels, from the cultural, civilizational, historical connect to also the instability and the geopolitical ramifications it has. How do you see this, General Binod, sitting there in Kathmandu? How do you see this now in terms of the India-Nepal relationship?
I think thank you for having me in the show, but I think you correctly brought out about the Nepal-India relations as a very close and cordial relations where we interact in many things. Looking at what has happened in the Kathmandu, the Gen Z peaceful protest, I mean, and the India and the Ministry of Foreign External Affairs press release that has come out has shown the closeness for freedom and democracy we both nations believe in. And our concerns, both Kathmandu and Delhi's concerns about the prosperity and stability of both of Nepal. But when you are talking about comparing the regions of the Southern Asia, though we have there are similarities of what happened in Dhaka, what happened in Colombo, and a little bit in Pakistan. I don't see any similarities of what has happened in Myanmar. It was a complete military takeover, which is very different in Nepal.
Pointing to our viewers the volatility. That's it. There are no similarities between Bangladesh and Nepal. We wouldn't want that at all. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying the volatility for India's neighborhood. That's all I was pointing out. But go ahead, finish your point.
All right. And so what I was trying to bring out is, I mean, there are problems here, but this protest did not come as a surprise. I mean, it was an ignorance. There were lots of protests at the beginning, starting of the year. 2025 alone had 3 protests, and which the political elites and the main political parties were very reluctant in addressing the national security challenges and the national challenges that Nepal was facing for its long-term stability. So this is what brought the Gen Z on the streets and how they have become successful. Now the only path is we have it's a constitutional vacuum that we're having. So we have to address before it reaches a crisis. We have to be able, the government, the army, and the president's office has to be able to address it properly with the interim settlement, with the interim setup, and bringing back the law and order situation into back in track.
Let's get in a word from Rishi as well. Rishi Gupta, Assistant Director at the Asia Society Policy Institute. Rishi, how do you see the India-Nepal relationship, and how do you evaluate how New Delhi would be now focused on in terms of the insecurity, the instability, the volatility that is coming out of Nepal?
Thank you for having me. I think it's a very timely question. I would say when Prime Minister Modi went to Nepal in 2014 on his first state visit after getting elected in August 2014, the first thing that he was addressing the joint session of the parliament, and he said, if there are tremors in Nepal, they get felt in India as well. I think that sums up the situation that we are in right now. We have an open border. Certainly, that's been really like it's seen as a very great. Unique thing between the two countries, because it facilitates the movement of people. As you said, roti beti ka relationship, and roti beti ka relationship does not require a visa, and that's how you don't have a visa or passport regime. Rather, an open border exists, and that facilitates people's movement freely. Coming back to what India can do right now, I would say India has been one of the key peace facilitators in Nepal. Back in the history, in past 70 years of Nepal's modern political history, you would see that India on several occasions has intervened, but not in terms of any military intervention or any other sort of interventions that India. So India has avoided those kind of things. Rather, India has been in the consultative format. So when there was a problem during the Panchayat era, from 70s to 90s, India was obviously there to support the people as well as the monarchy. At the same time, during the Maoist period, Maoist insurgency, India was helping the Nepalese in terms of providing assistance, providing and also the ties between the two militaries, the Indian army and the Nepalese army, have been the strongest.
That's correct.
So two institutions have been the most stable institution in both the countries. So I think whenever there is a problem, two armies talk, two institutions talk, and I think they are able to come out with some solid solutions. But again, in what India has said right now is India is saying that we request people of Nepal to exercise restraint, and I think that's a very valid point.
That's an important point. And the other point that you made, Rishi, about the fact that the Indian Army has always been there as a guide and a support for the Nepalese army as well is another very important aspect. I'm going to leave it there, but this is a situation, a story that we're going to keep coming back to, and I hope that I'm going to keep coming back to it. All right, on that note, a quick break. On the other side, we come back and talk about the other big development which has happened. The India-US trade talks, are they back on track? What are the areas that they will focus on? And how soon can a trade deal actually happen? All those details we get you after this very short break. Stay with India Global for that. Significant step forward in terms of easing the India-US tensions that have started with a possibility of the two sides negotiating a trade deal. Prime Minister Modi said teams from New Delhi and Washington were working to conclude their trade negotiations at the earliest, potentially easing America's tariff onslaught. Replying to Trump's post on trade talks, where PM said that he was looking forward to speaking with the US President Donald Trump in terms of finding a possibility to end this. Now, how soon can that happen? Will there be particular areas where the trade deal would focus on more? And will that actually lead to the two leaders meeting at the sidelines of the UNGA later this month? Let's quickly now get in Jayant, Mr. Jayant, for more on this to understand what this could potentially mean. And in fact, we have Mr. Amirullah Khan, who is an economist and trade expert, with us on the broadcast. Mr. Khan, how do you see these efforts by the two sides, and are you hopeful of a trade
Yes, Gauri, it was coming. You see, even when the when there was this thought, this seeming differences and this silence, it was but obvious that both the countries, two large countries that depend on each other for various things, have to talk. There is, however much you stand off, it is important for the deal to be taken forward. And see, the important thing is that for the United States, India is an important partner. And of course, for India, US is our largest trading partner and a partner with whom we have a large trade surplus, unlike in China, where we have a big deficit. So it makes sense for both of us to talk. It was coming. It took some time and it took its toll on the exchange rate, on the stock market. But given that now it is clear that at least at the very top, there is an inclination that the trade talks will begin, then it means that further down, where it actually matters. You see, in trade, it's not so much the president speaking to the prime minister that really makes any difference. Not even finance ministers. It is really the trade secretaries who sit down and discuss the
Absolutely.
nitty-gritty. And I think that is going to happen. It will be it will be interesting to see what sectors we are
Absolutely.
going
That
to
is
talk
going to be
about.
the key fact. That is going to be
Yeah.
the key fact. I'm afraid, Mr. Khan, I'm running out of time, and that
Yeah.
looks like the story here as well. Both sides
Yes.
are running out of time to really thrash out that deal. Viewers, on that note, switching focus and telling you about, well, the other aspect, shifting focus now to cricket, where India finally start their Asia Cup 2025 campaign with their Group A encounter against host UAE. This evening, the defending champions, who start as one of the favourites, aim to add a record extending 9th title to their name. We leave you with these shots as India get on to their campaign that starts this evening. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Global. Thanks so much for watching.